I want to start today by asking you to check your own cognitive baggage at the door. We all have a working model of how we think, right?
Right.
You've probably read Daniel Kahneman, or at least pretended to. You know the drill. System 1 is that fast, gut-level, lizard brain thinking.
And system 2 is the slow, logical, sweating over a spreadsheet thinking. The dual process theory. It's really the bedrock of modern psychology.
Exactly. But the research we are diving into today argues that this model is, well, it's effectively broken, or at least it's incomplete.
Because there's a new player in the game.
Right. In the last few years, we've introduced a system 3. And the weird part is this system doesn't happen inside your skull. It happens in a server farm somewhere in Virginia.
It's a provocative framework, for sure.
Right.
We're looking at a synthesis of research led by Dr. Jonathan Westover, but it pulls heavily from some, I'd say, fairly alarming experiments coming out of the Wharton School.
So what's the premise?
The premise is that we have entered the era of external algorithmic cognition. And the argument isn't just that we're using tools. I mean, we've always used tools.
Sure.
It's that we are fundamentally altering the architecture of judgment itself.
That sounds a little grand. Let's ground it. When I use a calculator, I'm offloading a cognitive task. Is that system 3?
No, and that distinction is absolutely vital. A calculator is a tool. It does exactly what you tell it to do. You are still the agent.
Okay.
System 3 is different because it has agency. It's, opaque. It offers a diagnosis or a legal strategy or a credit risk assessment, often without showing its work. And because it's so data-driven and dynamic, it mimics a colleague, not a hammer.
A colleague that never sleeps and has read every book in the library, which I have to say sounds great on paper.
It does.
But the core tension in this research, and it's right there in the title of the article, revolves around this idea of cognitive surrender, which to me sounds less like a partnership and more like a defeat.
Well, surrender is the right word because of the passivity involved.
Yeah.
The central finding in this whole deep dive is that when System 3 enters the room, human decision makers, even highly trained experts, tend to shut down their own system too.
They just stop thinking hard.
They stop checking the math. They stop hunting for the edge cases. They effectively hand the keys to the algorithm and take a nap in the passenger seat.
And we aren't talking about low-stakes stuff. This isn't Netflix recommending a bad rom-com. We're talking about medicine, law, high-frequency trading.
Exactly.
So the mission today is to figure out why we surrender, what that surrender is doing to our actual skills, that de-skilling phenomenon. And then what I'm really interested in is how we design a way out of it, because I assume smashing the computers isn't a viable strategy for 2026.
Definitely not. The efficiency gains are just too high. We can't go back. But we have to understand the trap before we can fix it.
Okay, so where do we start?
There's a specific case study from 2024 involving a radiologist that just perfectly illustrates how subtle this trap really is.
I spent some time with this anecdote, and honestly, at first glance, I didn't see the problem. It actually sounded like a success story.
It feels like one, doesn't it?
Right. So you have a radiologist at a major teaching hospital. She is just drowning in routine imaging studies. She decides to implement an AI system to pre-screen her queue.
Simple enough.
The AI's job is just to sort the likely normal from the likely pathological.
Standard triage. And initially, the metrics were incredible. Her diagnostic accuracy went up because she was fresher. Her turnaround times dropped.
And crucially, her burnout scores improved. She was getting home to see her kids. If you stopped the study right there, you'd say System 3 is a miracle.
But they didn't stop the study there. 6 months later, the hospital ran a workflow audit.
And this is where the cracks start to show.
This is where the surrender shows up in the data. The audit found a disturbing correlation. When the AI flagged a study as normal, the radiologist spent 40% less time reviewing it compared to her pre-AI baseline.
40% less time. Okay, but let me play devil's advocate here. If the AI is right, isn't that just efficiency? Isn't that the whole point?
It is efficiency if the AI is right 100% of the time.
Oh.
But it isn't. The audit showed she was spending significantly less time, even on the complex cases that the AI had incorrectly labeled as normal.
Oh.
The safety net had become a blinder. Because the machine said, it's clear, she stopped looking for the subtle anomalies that her human training would usually catch. She was skimming, not reading.
So she wasn't collaborating with the AI, she was just rubber stamping it.
Precisely. And that leads us to probably the most concerning piece of data in this entire stack. It comes from Shaw and Nave at Wharton. They wanted to quantify this rubber stamp effect in a controlled setting.
To see just how bad it could get?
Exactly.
This is the study with the 3 groups, right?
Correct. They gave participants these complex reasoning tasks. Group A worked entirely alone,
Yeah.
just human brains. Group B had a good AI assistant, highly accurate. And Group C,
Group C got the dud.
they got a bad AI assistant, one that was systematically wrong.
How wrong are we talking?
It was correct only 32% of the time. I mean, it was objectively terrible.
Okay, so logically, you'd expect the humans to just realize the bot is an idiot and ignore it.
You would think so. The humans working alone, the baseline, they got about 46% of the answers right. Not great, but that's our starting point.
And the ones with the good AI?
They jumped up to 71%. That's the promise of the technology right there.
Sure.
But here is the kicker. The humans with the bad AI, their performance dropped to 32%. They matched the AI's failure rate exactly.
Wait, pause on that. You're telling me that having a smart assistant that gave them bad advice actually made them dumber than if they had just sat there and guessed?
It made them significantly worse than the unassisted baseline. This is the very definition of cognitive surrender.
That's incredible.
Bad advice is worse than no advice because it short-circuits your critical thinking. You assume the black box knows something you don't. You see the output, it looks authoritative, and you just override your own intuition.
That is terrifying. It's like following a GPS right into a lake because it looked confident. But why do we do it? I mean, these participants aren't unintelligent. The radiologists aren't lazy. What's the psychological mechanism here?
The source material points to 2 main drivers. The first is what they call the efficiency trap. We have to look at the pressure organizations put on people.
It's all about speed. Speed above all else.
Right. There's an insurance company case study mentioned. They implemented System 3 for claims processing. It took the workflow from 4 days down to 4 hours.
See, if I'm the CEO, I'm looking at that thinking, I just saved the company millions. If I'm the employee, I'm thinking, I just got my weekend back. The temptation to trust the machine is massive. The reward is time.
It's huge. But think about the incentive structure. If the AI is right 90% of the time and verifying it takes you an hour, but just clicking accept takes 1 second, well, eventually your brain does the math.
You start to gamble.
You start to gamble. You accept the risk of that 10% error to gain the time.
But the problem is you don't just make a mistake on that 10%. You actually lose the ability to spot the 10% at all. Which brings us to the second mechanism, de-skilling.
This is the long-term cost. We have a use-it-or-lose-it relationship with our cognitive skills. There was a study in 2025 by Budsey and colleagues about colonoscopies.
I saw this one. It's basically the spell checker effect, but for cancer screening.
That's a perfect analogy.
Oh.
Physicians used an AI that highlighted potential polyps on the screen with a little box. It's a visual cue. Great tool. Super helpful.
Mm-hmm.
But they found that over time, the physician's unassisted performance declined.
So when they took the AI away, the doctors were worse at spotting polyps than they were before they ever even used the tool.
Yes. Their eyes had literally stopped scanning the texture of the colon wall. They were just scanning for the box. They offloaded that whole visual processing task to the software.
And the article points out a generational risk here, too. I mean, it's one thing if a senior doctor who's done 10,000 procedures the hard way uses this. But what about the resident?
That is the junior staff dilemma. If you learn your trade with a System 3 crutch, you never develop the mental muscle for independent analysis. You're building your professional foundation on an abstraction.
You don't know what a polyp looks like. You just know what a red box looks like.
Exactly. And that creates a fragile way to build a profession. If the server goes down or the algorithm drifts, you're helpless.
And this isn't just in medicine. The sources highlight this bleeding into finance and law as well.
Oh, absolutely.
I remember reading about the lawyers using ChatGPT.
The fake citations case.
Yeah, where they submitted a brief to a judge with case law that the AI just completely hallucinated.
That is the ultimate example of surrender.
Right.
They didn't verify because the output looked like a legal brief. It had the right font, the right structure, the right jargon. It had what they call fluency.
And fluency is a dangerous thing. Just because it speaks well doesn't mean it's telling you the truth.
And in finance, we saw a preview of this with the flash crash of 2010. The Dow dropped nearly 1,000 points in minutes because algorithms were reacting to other algorithms. There was no human circuit breaker in the loop to say, wait a minute, this makes no sense.
The article calls this algorithmic monoculture, which sounds like a term from a sci-fi dystopian farming movie.
It's a great metaphor, though. In agriculture, if you only grow one type of banana, A single fungus can wipe out the entire global supply.
Okay.
In banking, if every bank uses the exact same credit risk algorithm from one major vendor, and that algorithm has a blind spot.
Then every bank makes the exact same mistake at the exact same time.
Exactly. Human error is usually kind of random. You make a mistake, I get it right, it cancels out. But System 3 creates synchronized massive failure points. It amplifies systemic risk.
Okay, I feel like we've painted a sufficiently bleak picture here. We have smart people turning their brains off, junior staff not learning the basics, and the potential for massive synchronized crashes.
It is bleak if we do nothing.
So let's pivot to the doing something part, because the article isn't just doom scrolling. It actually offers strategies. How do organizations keep humans in the driver's seat when the car is trying to drive itself?
The sources present some really innovative interventions. They move beyond just, try harder. The first one is what they call structured feedback, or the AI scorecard.
I like this one because it sort of flips the usual management style on its head.
It really does. Usually you only hear from your boss when you screw up, right?
Right.
But the Cleveland Clinic's radiology department started holding these quarterly sessions where they specifically look for instances where a radiologist successfully overrode an incorrect AI recommendation.
So they are explicitly validating the act of disagreeing with the machine?
They are framing ignoring the machine as a high-level skill. They celebrate it. Look, the AI said X, but Dr. Smith noticed Y, and she was right. It changes the whole culture. It tells the junior staff, you are the final arbiter. The machine works for you.
That seems really powerful because it turns skepticism into a performance metric. It's not just about being fast, it's about being right when the bot is wrong.
And JP Morgan Chase does something similar with their fraud analysts. They meet weekly to review false positives. So, times when the AI flagged fraud, but the human correctly identified it as a legit transaction. It just constantly reinforces the fallibility of the system.
But I have to be the cynic here. Culture is great, but incentives pay the rent. If I'm paid based on how many claims I process per hour, I am still going to click accept, because that's how I get my bonus.
You absolutely will. Which brings us to the second strategy, incentive alignment. This is where companies have to put their money where their mouth is.
So paying people to slow down.
In a way, yes. Some law firms are starting to experiment with this. They're paying bonuses not just for accuracy or volume, but for documented verification steps.
Wait, you get paid for proving you checked the work?
Yes. You have to show your work, just like in high school math. You get rewarded for the process of skepticism. If you want people to engage System 2, that slow, expensive thinking, you have to compensate them for the time it takes.
That's got to be a hard sell for efficiency-obsessed management, though.
It is. But the argument is that the cost of verification is ultimately lower than the cost of a malpractice lawsuit or a regulatory fine when the AI hallucinates.
Fair point. What's the third strategy?
This one is about the AI design itself, uncertainty signaling.
Is this about the AI admitting when it doesn't know the answer?
Basically, one of the biggest drivers of surrender is that the AI usually looks 100% confident.
Yeah.
It doesn't stutter. So Ochsner Health implemented a sepsis prediction algorithm. But instead of just giving a binary yes-no, it displays a confidence indicator.
Like a weather forecast, a 60% chance of sepsis.
Exactly. You might say, I predict sepsis, but I'm only 60% sure because this patient has missing data points.
That completely changes the interaction. If the computer says, I'm just guessing, it triggers the human to look closer.
It shifts the user from compliance mode to investigation mode.
Mm-hmm.
But, and the source is very clear on this, humans have to be trained to interpret those signals. If you don't understand probability, a 60% confidence score might just look like a yes to you.
Which leads us to the final piece of the puzzle, training. If we are entering a world where System 3 does the grunt work, how do we train the next generation? We talked about the residents not learning the basics. How do we fix that?
We have to steal a page from aviation. Pilots spend hours in simulators dealing with engine failures, weather, systems going haywire. We need adversarial simulation for AI users.
Simulation where the AI is actively trying to trick you.
Deliberately. Medical schools are starting to run simulations where the AI is programmed to be wrong on subtle, tricky cases.
So they are baiting the students. I love that.
They are forcing the students to practice the act of saying no. If you never practice overriding the algorithm in a safe environment, you're not going to do it at 3 a.m. when a patient is crashing and you're tired.
You have to build the muscle.
You have to inoculate them against that psychological pressure to just agree.
It seems like we are moving toward a new definition of what it means to be an expert. It used to be, I know the facts. Now the machine knows the facts. So what is the human even for?
The article suggests a new title: Judgment Architects. We are moving away from being processors of information to being the architects of judgment itself. We handle the edge cases, the ethics, the ambiguity, and the context that the model can't see.
The stuff the calculator can't do.
Right. But that requires an ethical framework. Partners Healthcare, for example, has a rule: AI must advance patient outcomes or clinician well-being. It cannot be used just for efficiency.
That feels like a critical distinction. If the only goal is speed, safety will always suffer. But there is a loose end here that worries me. Accountability.
It's the elephant in the room.
If I am a judgment architect and I override the AI and I'm wrong, I'm in trouble. But if I listen to the AI and it's wrong, who is to blame? Me, the developer, the hospital admin who bought the software.
This is the legal frontier. The source calls for shared accountability. It can't be all on the user, because the user is fighting against these powerful psychological biases engineered into the tool. But it can't be all on the developer either.
It feels like right now companies want it both ways. They want the efficiency of the AI, but they want to blame the human when it crashes.
That is the current reality. And that's why leadership is so important. Leaders have to create a psychological contract where questioning the AI is safe. If you get fired for being slow because you are verifying an AI output, that organization is doomed to suffer a System 3 failure.
Yeah.
It's just inevitable.
So let's wrap this up. We are in the era of System 3. There is no going back. We aren't going to stop using Google Maps or medical AI. The genie is out of the bottle.
No, the efficiency gains are simply too high to ignore. We can't reject it. But the force argues we must engage with it calibratedly.
Calibrated engagement. Not blind trust, not Luddite rejection.
It's a partnership where we are the senior partner. We need to treat System 3 not as an oracle, but as a very fast, very eager, but occasionally delusional intern.
A delusional intern who can process millions of data points in a second, but doesn't know what a human life is worth.
Exactly. Useful, but requires constant vigilant supervision.
This has been a massive eye-opener for me. We usually talk about AI taking our jobs, but the real immediate risk is AI taking our judgment. And if we lose that, the job doesn't really matter anyway.
It changes the cognitive architecture of how we think. And that's a shift we need to manage actively.
So here's the thought I want to leave you with today. As you integrate more of these System 3 tools into your daily life, at work, at home, everywhere, you are building new habits. If this technology effectively rewires how we make decisions, are we prepared to trust ourselves to know when not to trust the machine?
That is the ultimate test of human intelligence in the AI age.
Thanks for diving in with us. Keep thinking, keep questioning, and we'll see you next time.